Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to be talking about something that I've kind of been toying with and thinking about for quite some time. So I've been making videos about combat robots and related things on YouTube for about 3 years now, and I think I'm finally at the saturation point to where I just simply can't answer all the questions that I get. And I'm not really the authority either, so I really shouldn't be getting all the questions that I'm getting either. So what I've created is the Combat Robot Resource Guide, which is simply just a guide or a document that I put together to help out beginners that will help them find the resources necessary to get started in building combat robots. Over the years from making these videos and attending events and things like that, I've kind of taken mental note of all the different questions and all the, I guess, the misdirections that I've kind of seen from people. For instance, weight classes, not really understanding the appropriate weight classes for competitions, not understanding weapon types, the good old classic, snare net, EMP, radio stuff. There's all sorts of things like that most beginners kind of go down these paths. So one of the goals of this document is to kind of give you a clear-cut roadmap. So when you first start getting interested in combat robots, you can go straight to the rule sets and you can go straight to finding an event. Going to an event as your very first step is always what I recommend. I always recommend going to an event, shaking some hands, watching the robots compete firsthand. I think that is probably the most valuable information that you should have. However, you need to be able to find an event and know all that ahead of time. So that is kind of the first section of the guide, is just simply how to understand the rules, understand the sport in general, and understand where to find events so that you can go attend one. Once you actually start building a robot, there becomes a pretty apparent need for resources specific to combat robots. A lot of physics and basic calculations don't really apply to combat robots, so having a link to all the calculators, the online tools, forums, Facebook groups, Reddit groups, that's kind of what I wanted to compile in this. So there is sections for each one of those so that you can find these appropriate resources. A lot of times you have a design and you're just not really sure if it's going to work out, and what I've been getting over the years is someone just sends me their whole CAD file and they're like, hey, look at this and let me know if it'll work. That's a lot of work. I'm going to be blunt about it. That is way more time than I have, and that's your job. That's not my job. You need to figure all that stuff out, but there's really not a great way to just say, hey, go and Google this, because it doesn't really work like that. So in the document, there is a section for all the calculators, and Ask Aaron is a great forum for that. I also have linked many times over the Realbots Combat Robot Guide tutorial book. This is great. It has a lot of information there. So it's just a resource for people to know where to look for these things. This is a great resource when you know about it. Ask Aaron is a fantastic website when you know about it. Now that you finally have a design that you think is going to work, you've done the math, you've done the calculations, you've asked on the forums, now it's time to kind of start piecing together some parts and start finding out, how everything goes together. And as we all know, not every component is going to work well in a combat situation. I find a lot of times that people will end up with like a RoboClaw or a Sabertooth, which are perfectly fine motor controllers, but they are really bad performers in combat situations. So having a list of sites at the very end of the document for combat robot specific marketplaces was kind of a goal of mine as well. When I first started out, I didn't know about Robot Marketplace. I didn't know about FingerTech stuff. I didn't know about, NBots, KitsBots, all those other places. And I have links to all those below. So the idea is that you can start sourcing from your, beginning idea from places that sell parts that are more geared towards combat and not just generalized electronics, which is very important in combat. Having been involved with combat robots for the last few years or so, one of the things I've noticed that's very important is that the sport tends to follow these kind of cycles. So right now, the flavor of the month is, well, whatever it is. I think it's kind of probably vertical spinners right now. And give it 6 months, the new flavor is going to be something else. Undercutters are getting more popular right now. For instance, I think a year ago, drums were really popular. So it kind of follows these cycles. And it's really good to kind of be on the pulse of what's popular right now, because if you're riding the trend from A year ago, maybe that won't be as effective for the modern competitions. You know, the biggest thing about combat robots is your robot is most effective when it's fighting the other robots out there. If it's just a bunch of wedges, then maybe this specific type of design isn't going to be as effective because everyone else out in the field just has a wedge. So you might want to go with a flipper or something else, you know, just as an example. So being able to stay up with the current trends is very important. So knowing the Facebook groups, knowing the Reddit group, also knowing the YouTube channels, you know, such as my own and all the other ones I have listed. It's nice to keep up with what is the current flavor of the month so that you can kind of be competitive with what is currently out there, because that's what you're going to see when you go to a competition. I think the last thing to say about this guide is that the community in general is very helpful, always willing to answer questions. However, you need to do your own research. We all got to where we are with this hobby by doing a lot of research and just trying things out. If you want to say, hey, I'm going to try out this weapon, no one's ever done it before, how's it going to work? I don't know. It's never been done before. You're just going to have to try it. You're just going to have to do some math, do a little bit of homework, do a little bit of research, maybe do some prototyping, maybe do some testing, and then just see what happens. I think that's a big draw to combat robots, is you just got to see what's going to happen. You never know. A lot of people told me that with my 30-pounder crippling depression, it would work. It's just a box with a big old weapon underneath. It worked out pretty well. I didn't know it was going to work out well. Other people didn't really think it was going to work out well, but it ended up being, you know, not too bad. So you just got to try things out. If you're at all interested in helping me out with this guide, just shoot me a message and let me know, and you know, I can add you as a collaborator, things like that. I do have a section in there about collaboration, and I want to reiterate this in the video. This is not the place to try and promote your site, promote your channel, promote your business, things like that. This is not a sponsorship deal. This is literally just the resources that people actually use. I don't have my sponsor Tormach listed because I'm not going to sit there and shove a mill down everyone's throat, because it might not be the appropriate thing for people. So just keep that in mind. This is, you know, a curated list. I'm not trying to get every single YouTube channel that ever existed for combat robots. Like if you filmed one video of your event, that's really not what I'm interested in here. It's going to be a shorter list of the things that are most relevant. So just keep that in mind if you do want to contribute to the guide. So there you have it. This is the Combat Robot Resource Guide. Hopefully this gives beginners a little bit better idea of at least where to look to find the information that they need. Of course, some people are just going to want to have someone else build the robot, and that's always going to happen. But for those people that are really honestly out there trying to look for the information that they need, hopefully this serves as a little bit of a hub for that. So as always, thanks for watching, and in 2019 I'm going to be doing a lot more kind of generalized combat robot related tutorial videos, so be sure to look out for those. See you next time.